So the first agile model we're going to be talking about is the Scrum model. So Scrum you may have heard before because it is a very popular way of developing software. And Scrum focuses on these 1 to 4 week different little intervals. So basically they're called sprints in Scrum. It's a Scrum sprint. And the sprint is this idea of quick development, adding in the highest priority features, then going to the client, the stakeholders, everyone who's involved, showing it off to them, taking feedback, and redoing the cycle. It's this idea of plan, build, learn, repeat. So we're going to do all of our define, design, build, and testing within this sort of Scrum sprint here. And this is where the ideas of like back-to-back testing comes into play, because we can use back-to-back testing to make sure that between sprints that we're not breaking something from the previous one, and to ensure the new features are working properly as well. So with every sprint, we're going to be creating a product that is slightly better than the previous sprint. It's this idea of basically prototyping it out. So every single prototype is going to be just a little bit better than the previous prototype. And a lot of times, maybe after the third or fourth sprint, we have a product that we can actually release into the market, and then we keep developing it as it's released into the market. So we can get a product out in 3 months, maybe 4 months, that the client can begin making money from, can begin taking in these ideas about how to fix it and make it better, and we can keep developing it based off of the user interaction. And so Scrum is very popular because of that. It's very quick to develop, very quick for the client to start making money, and it also allows extreme flexibility in the development process. So there are a couple of different people involved in the Scrum process. We have the product owner, and they are basically the stakeholders, everyone who's involved in wanting this piece of software. So from them, we get inputs from the executives, the team, the stakeholders, customers, and users. And then the product owner looks at all of this sort of input, and they help prioritize the list of the next steps, what we should do for our next sprint. So we need constant communication with the product owner. And this is a sort of a disadvantage, because maybe we have a product owner that doesn't like to spend the time prioritizing what's next. They just want us to do everything. And if that's the case, the core tenets of Scrum fall apart, because we're supposed to be basically creating this flexible design that works with the product owner. If he or she steps out, we do not have that input, and we start developing in potentially wrong directions. The Scrum Master, they hold the team liable to Scrum ideas, and they facilitate meetings and do conflict resolution, do a little bit of planning on the side. And so the Scrum meeting is basically the lead person for the Scrum model. There might be a lead software engineer as well that's working with more of the code, but the Scrum Master is holding the team liable to make sure that they're following all of the Scrum tenets and they're doing everything in the proper manner and fashion. Because if we fall apart and we stop adhering to our sprints, and we don't hit our goals during our sprints, then the whole process again is going to fall apart, because we aren't going to have finished products to show to our client, we aren't going to get that feedback, and we aren't going to be very flexible. And then finally, we have the team, and that is the team actually building the software. And this isn't just software engineers. We might have engineers, lead engineers, we might have designers, we might have just basic coders that don't know a lot about engineering, but they're pretty good in a single language doing a single thing. A lot of times this can be outside hired help for a specific task. Maybe we go look on a freelance website and we hire someone just for this sprint to build us a module, pay the person, and then he's off for the next sprint as we get more and more people. So the team can sort of change, but there are core people in the team, and there are roles, and they all come together to create the end product. This is a typical sort of way that Scrum works, is we have this idea of the product backlog. This is a set of a list basically of things that need to be done. So we have this list of ideas and things that need to be done. The problem, we don't know how to prioritize that list. So a lot of times we will bring in the stakeholders for the sprint planning meeting. So we'll ask them, what do you guys want next in this process? What would help you, or what would you like to see? What's most important to getting this product out? Once we have that idea set up, we create a sprint backlog where this is essentially the set of ideas that we're going to be working on for this current sprint. We set a deadline of we're going to do it in 3 weeks, we're going to do it in 2 weeks, we're going to do it in 15 days. We set some sort of deadline to it, have our list of objectives, and then we begin the creation process. So we start having these daily Scrum meetings, which is essentially, they're typically under 20 minutes. The Scrum team comes together, they talk about what they did yesterday, what they plan to do today, and what roadblocks they're dealing with, and potentially what steps they're going to use to fix those roadblocks. And this communication is important because maybe a certain user or a certain engineer talks about how they're dealing with this roadblock with the database integration or something like that. Well, another engineer might be like, well, actually, I've done that in the past. I know how to fix this. Let's get together today and I'll show you how to fix this and to get past that roadblock. So this communication allows for different engineers to input on different projects or different parts of the project and to help one another out. They complete all their work. The next day they have the daily Scrum meeting and they keep moving forward. This also allows everyone to keep track of how close they are to finishing their sprint and to maintain or to make sure that they're on schedule for their sprint. Once the sprint is done, it goes into sprint review, typically bring the stakeholders back in, demonstrate the sprint, take some suggestions. They ask the stakeholders, is this what you were talking about? They say yes, except we were thinking that this area should do this and that. We mark that down, we make those notes. And typically this would maybe then go back into the product backlog. While we have the stakeholders here, we ask them, okay, what do you want on the next sprint? They tell us what they're looking for in the next one. They prioritize our list. We start the process over. Now, the thing is, we also do a sprint retrospective. So after we've done the sprint review with the stakeholders, the product owners, everyone who is, basically hasn't seen this product in the last 1 to 4 weeks, then we go into a sprint retrospective, which is just the software team itself. We talk about the process, about how the last 1 to 4 weeks have gone, and we see if there are ways to do it better. What, held us up in a sort of a team environment and what held us up individually? Are there ways that we can fix that? After our sprint retrospective, we begin the next sprint planning, get all those lists, and we repeat the process over and over and over again until the product is complete. So Scrum is great for its flexibility because we have so much review, so much feedback from our stakeholders. We're constantly getting direction on what we should do next. We're not overcommitting to something where we, create this giant project and by the time the project is developed, it's completely wrong. We're making sure that we're doing these tiny little sprints, walking forward step by step and taking in feedback so we create the product that the client is hiring us to create.